Hello, I think I should be on live now, so if you can hear me, welcome to another session on Facebook Live, this time dealing with IELTS Speaking Part 2, in particular, making and using your notes to help you keep going. Now, what we'll be covering in today's lesson is primarily using exam strategies to try and produce your notes in 60 seconds. Now, a lot of people have complained to me that it's almost impossible to produce anything valid to talk for about 2 minutes in 60 seconds. Now, this is untrue. If you apply the right strategy and consistently practice applying those strategies, then you should be able to produce a lot of information in a matter of 60 seconds. So this is something that's not unachievable, something that you can actually easily accomplish in 60 seconds if you are motivated and disciplined enough to apply the strategies that I'll show you later, and produce notes in 60 seconds to help you sustain your talk for about 2 minutes. And then we're going to take a look at how we could use your notes to talk about yourself for any topic that's given to you. Okay, so it's it's a waste of time if you've actually produced your notes and not make use of them to try and talk about the topic that you're given extensively. Now, some people choose not to use those 60 seconds to prepare notes. And in my experience, I've seen people who don't really rely on notes speak quite well. But these people are normally, they're the sort of people who are very familiar with the English language. They come into contact with the language every single day, or English is their native language. So if you're absolutely confident that you can, that you don't necessarily have to rely on your notes to talk for 2 minutes, then you don't have to. Nobody's going to be checking your notes. You're not going to be assessed based on your notes. But if English is not your first language, if you're not confident in speaking for 2 minutes, I would strongly recommend that you utilize those 60 seconds given to you to try and help you sustain your topic for about 2 minutes. Okay, so 2 minutes can feel like 2 years if you have absolutely nothing to say. So yeah, make sure that you take advantage of that opportunity given to you to try and increase your chances of getting a high score for this part of the test. And then finally, we're going to take a look at how to produce final sounds of words to try and speak clearly. Now, pronunciation is a criterion that's often ignored by a lot of candidates in favor of grammar and vocabulary. Quite often when people practice speaking, they tend to focus too much or rely too much on feedback about their grammar and about their vocabulary. Now, don't forget that there are 4 criteria that your examiner will be looking at, and grammar and vocabulary are just 50% of what you're going to be assessed on. Do not underestimate the importance of pronunciation, which will also influence your fluency and coherence. So we'll be looking at how to produce final sounds clearly so that your listener, in particular your examiner, will be able to understand the information that you're trying to give, and so will be able to give you a fair assessment on your speaking. Okay, so basically these are the 3 things that we'll be looking at in today's lesson. Now, let's take a look at what you are required to do in when you are talking about a topic. Now, in part 2, you will be given a topic booklet. Now, it used to be a topic card, but these days you'll be given a topic booklet. And on this booklet, there are prompts to help you structure what you say. A very common mistake that candidates tend to make is that they rely on these prompts and answer the questions and have nothing else to say. which is a shame because they've misunderstood the point of these prompts. These prompts are there for you to tell a story, okay? Not just to help you structure what you say, but also as a basis for you to tell an interesting story to your examiner, okay? And if you're familiar with IELTS practice or with the test itself, you will see that these prompts usually begin with a question word like what, who, or when. So think of something to say about each one, and you should always try to use your own experiences and ideas. So what you need to do essentially is you need to keep to the topic, okay? Make sure that you answer the topic. So for example, if you're given a topic such as describe a bookshop that you normally go to. Now, if you start talking about a book that you like reading, this will be considered off topic. Now, don't worry, you will not be assessed on your content, rather your delivery of your topic. But if your examiner feels or suspects that you have prepared your topic, they will gently try to steer you back into the right direction, perhaps by pointing their finger at the task booklet again and, you know, remind you to keep to the topic, which is about a bookshop, not about a book. So try to keep to the topic. You won't lose marks for it if you stray a little bit off topic, but you should be aware that your examiner is also looking out for prepared answers, and you will be penalized for this. Okay? Also, make sure that you keep to the tense. So one of the first things you should do, you should look at when you're given your task booklet, is to consider whether or not this topic is about the past, is about the present, or is about the future. So you're going to have to decide on which tense you're going to be using predominantly. Now, if the topic is about the past, it's quite easy for you to try and talk about a past event using the past tense. That's fine. However, a high scoring candidate would be someone who not only uses the past tense to talk about a past event, but will also use a mixture of other tenses, such as the future tense to talk about their plans, you know, in the topic itself. They will also use the present tense to relate what they're talking about to the topic. So, but basically, the difference between you know, an average candidate and a high-scoring candidate is an average candidate tends to play it safe, you know, using the past tense to talk about the past, using the future tense to talk about a plan or ambition. But a better candidate, a better performing candidate would be someone who'd be able to manipulate their tenses to talk about the topic using a range of tenses. And this is what examiners are looking for. If they're going to give you a high score, they're looking for a mix of tenses, not just one tense. Excuse me. Not just an over-reliance on one tense alone. Okay? So yes, by all means, keep to the tense, but try not to stick to the same tense throughout the whole topic. And of course, you will need to you will need to keep talking for 2 minutes. If you speak for less than 2 minutes, perhaps 1 minute 15 seconds, you may be penalized for this, because your examiner is looking for evidence of a wide range of structures, vocabulary, you know, enough fluency and pronunciation evidence to show that you're able to deliver your topic well. So make sure that you keep talking for a full 2 minutes. And to do this, you will need to practice consistently. Keep talking. Okay, perhaps at home, have a clock timer in front of you. Okay, have a clock timer in front of you and set it for 2 minutes. And make sure that you keep talking until the alarm goes off, for you to get an idea of how 2 minutes lasts for. So you need to keep doing that until you feel comfortable enough in the exam room to speak for a full 2 minutes. Don't worry if your examiner cuts you off mid-sentence. This is a good sign, because in the IELTS speaking, it's better to talk too much than to talk too little. Okay, so if your examiner politely cuts you off by saying thank you, that means you can stop talking. They have enough evidence to give you a fair assessment on your language skills. Okay, so make sure that you apply all these 3 strategies to your test. Now, one exam tip that you have to remember is that you're given 1 minute to make notes. Try to make these notes in English, not in your own language, because you need to keep thinking in English. So I understand the need for making notes in whatever language is your first language, but remember, ultimately you're going to have to talk in English. So if it helps you to draw a diagram, whatever. But whatever words that you put down, try to put them down in English. Okay, it could be in the form of a mind map, or a spidergram, or bullet points, whatever. But keep your vocabulary in English. Okay, so we are going to take a look at a part 2 topic, and I'd just like you to study this topic on your own first. I'll give you a few seconds to read through the topic just to understand what it's asking you for. Okay, so is this topic about the past, the present, or the future? Obviously, it's about the past. Okay, if you've identified this topic as something about the past, you are absolutely right, because of the word something you did, past tense. What it was, when you did it, how it made you feel, and what it had on your life. So try to use the past tense consistently to talk about this event, and also at the same time try to use a mixture of tenses to talk about the topic as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate an example answer, and I would like you to just listen and observe how this answer complies or measures against fluency and coherence, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Okay, so I'm going to start my timer for 2 minutes, and I'm going to stop at exactly 2 minutes. Okay, here we go. I'm going to talk about what I feel is probably my greatest achievement. I guess many people are proud of things having to do with their job, maybe the amount of money they've made, but I suppose mine is more of an emotional achievement. I'm exceptionally proud of a competition I took part in. It was about 5 years ago when I was still at university. I was studying engineering, and there was a competition to see who could come up with a safer and more eco-friendly way of processing waste oil. You see, my university was a strong advocate of the green movement, and students have always been encouraged to inculcate environmentally conscious habits like switching off the lights or the air conditioning when we are done with the lecture room, even right down to using green products like recycled stationery. So anyway, since being an undergrad, I gradually became a convert and got involved in projects that promoted the ideology of protecting the planet. So when this competition came along, I was really excited about putting my ideas forward in processing a non-renewable resource like waste oil. There were 5 of us in the team, and I was appointed project manager. We met every single afternoon after lectures, trying to complete a prototype of the equipment we're building to help with using recycled waste oil. It was quite challenging working under pressure, especially with the looming deadline. And on the day of the competition itself, I remember how really nervous I was while making our presentation, because I could see that I was shaking very badly. Luckily, when I saw my mum in the audience, I regained my composure and managed to do the presentation as well as the Q&A session quite smoothly. After the competition, I remember feeling exhausted and relieved after that it was all over. Okay, now that was for a full 2 minutes. I didn't, if you've noticed, I didn't actually finish my topic. I didn't actually get to say what effect this achievement had on my life. But that's fine, because I have fulfilled 2 minutes of the required period given to me. Okay? Right, now let's take a look at how I have prepared notes for this particular topic. Okay, I'm just going to show you a page of a plan that I've made here. Now have a quick look and I'll ask you a few questions about this. Okay, what do you notice about these notes? Quite a lot, isn't it? Quite a lot to produce in 60 seconds. However, this is something that some of my students have come up with in those 60 seconds with a lot of training. And this is something that's achievable, absolutely achievable. So if some of my students can produce something as quickly as this in 60 seconds, then I'm sure you can do the same thing as well. Okay, and it's, like I said, it takes a bit of practice, well, not a bit, but a lot of practice, and you're going to have to strategize properly. You're going to have to understand what's involved in making notes. You could see from the diagram, I've decided to use a mind map rather than bullet points, and you can see that most of my notes do not contain complete sentences. Why? Because I only have 60 seconds and there is no time for me to write an essay in 60 seconds. But yet, sadly, I've seen in my experience students or candidates, you know, when I gave them 60 seconds to prepare their topics, they picked up their pencil and started writing sentence by sentence. So by the time 60 seconds were over, they only managed to come up with 2 sentences and, you know, began confidently and then kind of died a slow death, I think, towards the end. So try not to do that. You can see that all of my notes contain no more than 5 words for each of these points that I've written. No more than 5. And at the same time, you can see that a lot of them contain content words. Yeah, no verbs, no subjects, just content words. Okay, let me show you how I've used these notes to talk about my topic again. Okay, so pay attention to my plan and see how I've decided to use my notes to talk about my topic. Okay, it starts from here. Okay, so my notes actually start from the point of emotional achievement. So I'm just going to start the timer again for 2 minutes. I'd like you to listen to the talk and see how my notes apply to the topic that I'm talking about. Okay, here we go again. I'm going to talk about what I feel is probably my greatest achievement. I guess many people are proud of things having to do with their job, maybe the amount of money they've made, but I suppose mine is more of an emotional achievement. I'm exceptionally proud of a competition I took part in. It was about 5 years ago when I was still at university. I was studying engineering, and there was a competition to see who could come up with a safer and more eco-friendly way of processing waste oil. You see, my university was a strong advocate of the green movement, and students have always been encouraged to inculcate environmentally conscious habits like switching off the lights or the air conditioning when we're done with the lecture room, even right down to using green products like recycled stationery. So anyway, since being an undergrad, I gradually became a convert and got involved in projects that promoted the ideology of protecting the planet. So when this competition came along, I was really excited about putting my ideas forward in processing a non-renewable resource like waste oil. There were 5 of us in the team, and I was appointed project manager. We met every single afternoon after lectures trying to complete a prototype of the equipment we're building to help with using recycled waste oil. It was quite challenging working under pressure, especially with a looming deadline. And on the day of the competition itself, I remember how really nervous I was while making our presentation, because I could see that I was shaking very badly. Luckily, when I saw my mum in the audience, I regained my composure and managed to do the presentation as well as the Q&A session quite smoothly. After the competition, I remember feeling exhausted and relieved that it was all over. I didn't win, which was a bit disappointing for me, but I was told by one of the judges that he really liked my ideas. What he said made me decide to keep some of my designs because I truly believed they would work. And I'm really glad I did, because as it turns out, some of these processes that I designed then are now being used in the gas company I work for, and that makes me very proud. Okay, that was 2 minutes. All right, so this is more or less something that examiners are looking for. You don't have to rely on your notes to talk about the topic. I mean, notice that I didn't actually use some of these words like apathetic, poster child, pessimist, a few other things. But remember, you're not going to be assessed on your plan. Your plan is there as a crutch to help you talk about your topic. So if you don't get to use everything on your plan, don't worry, don't despair, it's fine. Your examiner is just looking to hear what you're saying rather than what you've planned. Okay, now here is a copy of the sample answer that I've used. And as you can see, this relates to the bullet points or the prompts that were on the task booklet. What it was, when you did it, how it made you feel, and what this achievement had on your life. Okay, so notice that my tenses were not all about the past. Yeah, you can see that I've used present perfect, present simple. Here it's predominantly past because I was talking about narrating what happened at that time. And the same thing here. And you can see that also at the end I've used present tense to relate what this achievement had on my life. Okay, so try to use a mix of tenses, not all the time in the past, for your examiner to hear some evidence of you using or skillfully manipulating a range of tenses and structures to help you talk about your topic. Okay, I hope that was clear. Right. Excuse me. Okay. Now, at the end of your talk, your examiner may or may not ask you another question. So after you've spoken about the subject that have been outlined on the topic booklet, you may be asked 1 or 2 follow-up questions. So let me just let me show you a copy of that. Yeah. Okay. Did you tell anyone else about what you did? Okay, that's an example of a follow-up question. Now, here's an exam tip. Now, the follow-up questions are short answer questions, and here you do not have to give long answers. Okay, it's just a way of your examiner trying to round off your topic. So answer the question with a brief reason or explanation if necessary. So if you are asked, did you tell anyone else about what you did? I think the ideal answer here would be something like, yes, I told my family and they were obviously proud of me, especially my mother. The end. Okay, just one brief sentence or a brief reason or a brief explanation. That's it. Um, don't go on to talk anymore. If you do happen to talk more about it, you'll find that your examiner will cut you off because they will have to move on to the next part of the interview. Okay, so don't be alarmed. It's just a rounding off question, and you're not expected to give a lengthy answer in this part at the end of your topic, at the end of your part 2 test. Okay, right now. Let's take a look at pronunciation. Okay, now pronunciation mistakes can make you lose marks in the IELTS speaking test. If the examiner cannot understand what you're saying, it is difficult to get a good mark. So remember, open your mouth as wide as possible if necessary, even if it feels unnatural. Do not speak through your teeth. Do not mumble. Make sure you have pronounced the ends of words or sentences. Do not swallow sounds, in particular sounds like these ones here. S, z, d, k, n, l. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, just a very quick exercise. I hope you have your paper and pencil with you. I'd like you to take a look at the words and see if you can categorize the words in the correct place in the table according to their final consonant sound. Okay, so I'm just going to give you maybe 5 minutes to do this. Alright, I'm just going to be silent for 5 minutes, okay? Just to let you know, I'm still here. You have about 3 minutes to do this. 1 minute. Okay, that's for exactly 5 minutes. I hope you've managed to come up with a list of words with very clear final sounds. Let's take a look at what final sounds you've managed to produce first before we categorize them. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the answers for number 1 to 21. Okay, so if you've got importance, okay, that's good for the first word. Now, where do you think this would go under? Let's try to categorize them in numbers. So let's just put this as category 1. Let me just use a different color here. Okay. Category 1, 2, 3 over here, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. All right. So importance would probably go under category 1 because it has s sound at the end of the word. Okay. Now let's look for more words that has a s sound at the end of it. Okay. If you've categorized the word targets for number 4, you are absolutely right. So we've got targets, again, s sound. All right. And then we have one more sound, I think, with an S, with a S. What could that be? I think that would be number 8. Convenience. Convenience. So if you could pronounce the words along with me, that would be good for you. Okay. Now category 2, we have Z sound. Some speakers, some of my students I know, have difficulty pronouncing this Z sound. Okay, so basically to differentiate between number 1 and number 2 is that when you put your finger on your throat, you should be able to hear a vibration on your throat with the sound for number 2. Z. For S, you won't be able to hear or feel anything on your throat. Okay, so the Z sound, we have a few words actually. We have, let's see, number 21, changes, changes. Okay. We also have, let's see, what do we have? Policies, policies. Okay, third sound, number 10, recycles, recycles. Quite a common word. And then we have number 12, propose, propose. And finally, number 18, knows, he knows. Okay, so now even though these words end with S, they have the Z sound at the end. So try to produce these sounds clearly to your examiner so they'll be able to understand clearly what exactly you mean. There are very subtle differences. I mean, you will not be penalized for not producing s or z correctly, but if your sounds lead to some confusion for the examiner or for your listener, only then will you be penalized. But there are, the differences are very subtle, very slight. So if you can produce perfect sounds, that's fine. Don't try to overdo it for some reason, okay? So try to practice so that they come out naturally. And then we have category 3, which is the d sound. That would be, let's see, number 7, moved. Moved. And then we have number 19, household. Household. Okay, so generally just 2 sounds over here, just 2 words. Moved, household. And then we have k, category 4. K. What could it possibly be? Again, 2 words. Public. Public. And what's the other word? If you've guessed electronic, you're absolutely right. Electronic. K. Electronic. And category 5, n. N. We have 3 words. Number 3, solution. Solution. Insane. Insane. And explain. Explain. And finally, through the process of elimination, we have all the rest, which is under l sound. Okay, so we've got essential, futile, okay, fundamental. It helps if you shadow the words as we go along. Try to pronounce it after me. Okay, so fundamental, sociable, sociable, multiple, multiple, and finally bicycle. Bicycle. Okay, so try to practice these sounds as often as you can to make sure that you produce clear sounds when you talk to your examiner. Okay, now we're just going to take a look at one final question for task 2. For part 2. Okay, I'm going to give you a few seconds just to read through the topic, and then I'm going to show you the plan for this topic. So, at first glance, is this topic about the past, the present, or the future? You can quite honestly say, quite easily say, that this topic is about the past because of the tense that's used here. A conversation you had recently that changed your way of thinking. You should say who you spoke to, what you spoke about, what you liked about it. However, the last part is quite interesting. You should say also if you think we communicate enough today. So here you have to talk about the present, and if necessary talk about the future. So here's a challenge for you. I'm going to give you 60 seconds to prepare your notes as quickly as you can about these topics. Okay, I'm going to challenge you to see if you can come up with a plan as long as this list here. Okay, so if you can come up with a very full list of content words, then I'll clap for you. Absolutely amazing. But if this is your first attempt, don't despair if you can come up with maybe 1 or 2 words. Okay, it all takes practice. So let's start with practicing this topic here. Okay, 60 seconds. I'm going to start my timer right about now. Okay, stop writing. Okay, look at your paper. What does your plan look like? Something like this? Okay, if you have come up with something like this, my hat's off to you. Absolutely wonderful. Now, did you stick to phrases that are no more than 5 words long? Remember, if you look at your topic, if you look at your notes should only be on content words rather than verbs or prepositions or articles. You can see that I've not used any articles at all. Maybe 1 or 2 prepositions here and there, but most of the time you can see that my phrases are no longer than 5 words, with the exception of children should be taught to read early. Anyway, the focus of my talk is seminar, so that is something that I put in the middle of my mind map there because I don't want to go off topic. And yeah, so this is something that you can actually achieve in 60 seconds with a lot of practice, with plenty of practice. That's it. I mean, there's nothing, is something that anyone can accomplish if they've got the right discipline, the motivation, and the consistency to do it. Okay, so if my students can do it, so can you. All right, so I'm going to talk about this topic, and I'd like you to observe how I use my plan or use my notes to talk about this topic for about 2 minutes. Okay, so just listen and observe. I'm going to start the timer now for 2 minutes. Just give me a second. Okay, here we go. I remember one conversation in particular that changed my whole way of thinking about teaching children. Was a seminar that I attended about 10 years ago about the importance of teaching children reading at kindergarten level. Now, the seminar was held in Glasgow in a teaching conference for which I represented my school. I spoke to a professor afterwards who said he thought it was essential children were taught to read as early as possible. Children, he says, have not been exposed to the value of reading because they were too busy with computer games that take up most of their free time indoors. He moved on to say that teachers should not be frightened of using electronic books and should take this opportunity to use children's love of the screen and focus their attention on what they should be reading. He also said that there was absolutely nothing wrong with children withdrawing into themselves while reading, and that they should be left to their own devices, so to speak. Pardon the pun. At first I thought this sounded insane, but then he said that children were also extremely sociable at this age and enjoyed working together. and sometimes trying to force them to read books was futile. So an easy solution was to allow them to use computers, and he said that every primary school teacher today knows the convenience of using these in the class. Now, students could be encouraged to discuss their choice of reading material and then talk about it through a review. He mentioned that there were several methodologies that teachers could employ to cater to different types of learning styles, but unfortunately, our conversation didn't last long enough for us to explore what those approaches involved. I liked his suggestion that a long-term solution required an expansion into the e-book market. The fact that teachers could look into what was available on the internet as well as be motivated to publish online is something that many teaching professionals could consider, even myself. He finished by explaining that the government needs to start making changes to education policies. But I think a fundamental problem is that we don't talk enough to each other today. So changes are difficult to make, to be honest. Perhaps a solution would be at ground level, at home, where parents could inculcate the habit of communicating with their family regularly instead of focusing too much on screen time. Okay, now you can see that I've used most of the words here on my plan, but like I said, you are absolutely under no obligation to use everything that you've written on your plan because no one's going to see it except you. So the words on your plan are for you to prompt you into remembering what to say next. Okay? And this is something that a lot of people rely on if they have to make a presentation, even politicians who give speeches, people rely on notes. And unless you are a natural storyteller, then I think it would be a good idea for you to make a plan, and the more you can come up with, the better. So if you can come up with a full page like this, then you would probably be at an advantage and not be at a loss as to what to say next. Okay, so you can see that I have written my sample answer here, and this is according to the prompts that have been shown to you on the topic booklet. Who you spoke to, what you spoke about, what you liked about it, and do we communicate enough today? I think I must have spoken for slightly longer than 2 minutes, but don't worry. If you don't get to talk about everything on your plan, don't worry. Like I said, it's much better to talk too much than to talk too little. Okay, so if you find that your examiner tries to prompt you into saying more, for example, can you tell me more? Or if he or she says to you, can you explain? Can you tell me more? That means that you're not speaking enough. Okay, so that should be a warning signal or a warning sign for you to say that your examiner hasn't got a lot of information from you and that they cannot give you a fair assessment of your language ability. Okay, so try to show off what you know, speak your mind, and most of all, do plenty of practice. Without practice, you won't be able to get to where you want to go. Okay, it's a little bit like playing a musical instrument or playing sports. You can't become like, what's his name? Ronaldo in a matter of 2 weeks. Yeah, if you haven't played football. You need a lot of practice, and you have children who go to football schools and children who take years to practice to be able to play as well as Ronaldo or Messi, for instance, or Beckham. The same for music. You can't expect to walk into a music hall and start playing like Mozart if you haven't practiced. And you have to be realistic about this. You need a long time to practice. You can't just think, okay, I've got 2 weeks to practice and I'm going to get from band 5 to band 7 or band 5 to band 8. You've got to be realistic about what how much time you have and what your aims are. So I've had people who come up to me, um, with a ridiculous deadline, saying, "Look, my exam is next week. Can you improve my score by 2 bands?" Um, no, I'm not a miracle worker. Neither are your other language teachers. So you need to make sure that you've got some time to commit to practicing a lot in order for you to get to where you want to be. Okay, so I think that's it for now. I don't. If you do have any questions, please feel free to comment. Well, to leave a question in the comment box, and I'll try my best to answer any questions you have about what we've covered so far, or about IELTS speaking, or the IELTS test in general. I hope you have found today's session particularly helpful. I'm not sure if this streaming has gone on to a full 1 hour or whether it stopped after 10 minutes, but don't worry if you didn't manage to get the full stream. This session is being recorded anyway, and I'll upload it onto YouTube for you to view the lesson in its entirety. Okay, it's been a pleasure having you with me, and stay tuned for more Facebook Live sessions. I'm not really sure which one I'm going to be doing next. Writing task 1? Listening? I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll put a voting or polling thing on my Facebook page, and you can help me decide what it is that you would like to see in your next Facebook Live session. Okay, so if your exam is this coming week or next week, I know some people are taking the exams in the middle of February. All the best, good luck, and make sure that you do plenty of practice. Okay, so take care for now. Have a good rest of the week ahead. See you soon. Bye bye.